No, it's lost access to LinkedIn. Just gave me so I don't know. What does that mean? I can't go live?
Hold on.
No, it looks like I can't go live.
Well,
it's giving me a sign in. It's allowing me to sign in, which it did yesterday. Earlier when I called you, it was not allowing me to do this. So let me see if they have tried to rectify it.
Oh, look, Matt Spurgle coming in from YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're live on YouTube for sure.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, everybody, yet again, another technical glitch, courtesy of Steph and Jess Build an App Show.
I love it.
Welcome to everybody as you jump on here today. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. Glad you stopped by. And let us know, Matt, what the reception is like on your side of the fence. Jesse, we're all ready to rock and roll?
Ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
Good. Very good. Well, I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to jump on here. I've got a little bit of order of business that we're going to visit. But again, for those that are on, just to recap verbally, Jesse and I had a conversation, and, he's, as we all know, really okay. Thanks for no go on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody knows that, there is somewhat of a divide between technology and the guys that work and are asked to use technology on their projects. So that spurned us having this show, I'm calling it, that's allowing all Jesse's professional background and all that he knows, bringing to the table what technologies are we kind of missing out on for, the guys that are working every day. What's your thought on that, Jesse?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, that sounds really fancy, Steph, of course.
Of course, sorry.
I think, some of what excites me about the conversation is there is a digital, or rather, there can be a digital solution for some of the problems that the hands and eyes, right? The people that do the work. I feel like there's a ton of technology in construction, but not much of it is directly focused on serving the people that do the building. Like there's
directly is the key word.
Yes. And so for me, being able to, like, I would never independently have made a connection to, like, oh, we could use technology or build an app to serve that audience. And so being able to, like, tinker around with that and see that people out there in the audience are interested, or not just in the audience, but in the market, have an interest of this idea, is exciting because, yes, well, there we go. We got Miss Carolyn. Yep, they're coming over from LinkedIn now. Yes.
Yeah, and thank you guys for paying attention to that last minute message. And then we've got Heather Jones.
Miss Heather.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on. So I mean, you're right. It really is the key about being direct. So now that we've got a few people jumping on, I'm going to run through a little recap of where we are and what got us here, and then we'll jump into where we're heading today.
I love it. So the unknown is what gives me the most stress. And I feel like I see that in so many of my friends, so many of my people out there. And so this app would close the gap on all of the unknowns that come with going to a new project. or being reassigned to a new job, new location, etc.
So there we are. I don't know if that meant anything to anybody out there in social media land, but that's my idea of a recap, and Jesse telling us exactly what is the quandary here, right?
Yeah.
You get on that site, it's like, and also I think it's interesting. Jesse shared a story with me about you doing this, you driving the site on a Saturday, getting ready for a Monday. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is you get assigned to go to a new, back in the day when I did like real work, get assigned, hey, you're going to project whatever, here's the address. And this was before GPS, right? So it's like, okay, pull out the map, look for the instructions, or directions rather, and not knowing how, like, the best way to get there. Are there any road closures? I don't like to be late. So I would go, ideally, if I got like redirected on a Friday, I would go over the weekend, like, okay, let me drive out there and see where I need to go. If it was like Tuesday evening, I need to be there Wednesday. Well, Tuesday evening, I was going to drive to get a feel for where the damn job site actually is. Is there even parking? Because if there isn't dedicated parking, that means I need to get there 30 or 45 minutes earlier than normal so that I can get, park at least within 2 miles of the job site. And so there were all these things that I needed to figure out just to make it to work on time. Which, hey, we got Mr. Lance, Trade Partner HQ. Good morning. Which I think is, to me, it was just a normal thing. And I know I'm not the only one that does that. And when you and I were talking about it, you're like, well, that's not cool. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's the way it is. And so that kind of grew into this, like, well, we could do something about it.
Right on. All right. So with that, today, what we're going to do is what they call in the tech word a minimal viable product.
Ooh.
And what does that stand for, girls and boys?
Yeah.
The minimum necessary requirements that we would start with to consider building this particular app. So what is the problem? What is the solution? The problem is, as Jesse has stated, I don't know anything about the location where I'm working on my new job. The solution: build an app that helps site workers navigate the job location and the surrounding area. And now a quick poll for those of you that are tuning in. Do we agree or disagree? Is this where we're going?
Yeah, like drop in the comments, thumbs up, or the word agree if you think this is something of interest or that would bring value. And obviously, if you disagree, drop 10 comments saying you disagree.
Yeah, just to throw us off. Come on.
When I think about it, if I'm thinking about it as me as an individual using the app, and because of the nature of construction, I would be using it a few times. Oh, there's Heather with the thumbs up. um, a few times a year, right? Like one project, finish that project. Oh, there's a middle of the road, hard to
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and but if it's just from my perspective, maybe 2 or 3 times a year I'm using this. But if I think about the hundreds and sometimes thousands of people that have to go to a job site, one job site, and then multiply that times all the job sites that are out there, and like just keeping it isolated in new commercial construction, that's a huge number. And then if I broaden that out to residential, that's a bigger number. And then renovation, and so like the usability is gigantic. But now, like all the other stuff I don't know. I got to have breakfast with Miss Heather and her husband, uh, and she's really excited about it, and pointed out like it doesn't just have to be for construction. So a lot of exciting ideas around it. But back to your point, like what's the like for me, I just want to play and do everything. But what's the minimum viable product, I think, is the responsible way to think about it.
So Matt's looking at it from the general contractor's perspective. Who would pay for it? And I would, yeah, go for it, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. A GC would not pay for it because it doesn't solve their pain. They don't care. They have no idea because they have premium parking all the time. And I don't even know if this trade, like me as an individual, as a trade that has to go to these job sites, I don't know that I would pay for it. But if thousands or millions of people could use it, that means there's a lot of eyeballs on the thing. And so who would pay for eyeballs? That's kind of where my head's at.
So what do you mean who would pay for eyeballs?
So, I mean, I just think of advertisements, advertisers, anybody that wants to market their product to this demographic, to these people that are in the trade. There it is, the same question, right? Can it be paid for with advertising? And so, I mean, Steph, think about how many people you know that have a product or a service that
I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, yes, right. Advertising is what everybody's using these days. But I would even dare say that it would seem to me that people, if you're not going to, if it's going to get you to the job site on time, if you're not going to get reamed out by your boss, I mean, why? Same way. I mean, why do people buy watches or Apple watches or anything else? I mean, they have those things to convenience their life as a whole. Right. And if this is something that connects you to your work every day and the dynamics that change in your work every day, there's many different ways that we could go with. And this kind of gets to the next idea, which is setting up a database is where we'd be starting. Like, what would be the elements in the database that would run in the background of this app that you would potentially want to include? So you'd need to have maps, and as came out in our first episode, perhaps, local restaurants, navigating the site itself. You called out something that was road closures. I mean, those are, so to me, I would think you'd think a little bigger. And also when you're trying to monetize something like this, the more eyeballs, to your point, Jesse, of having so many people that are in construction on multiple projects across North America, let alone the world, how many people would find something like this, helpful, right? That they might pay $10 a month for. I'm just riffing on the number, but
yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. So I mean, I'm being like thinking of a critical perspective is like, well, you have Google Maps, right?
Right.
And so in terms of like what has to be there, how does this become different than Google Map or what any other GPS deal? And so Getting
That's a really
to,
good call out. Yep.
right? So getting there, that's not like that pain has decreased from what my pain used to be because we have GPS and we have Google Maps. However, understanding where the hell to park once I get within a mile of the job site is the bigger problem.
Okay.
Right? Because it's like, so you're using Google Maps. Most of the projects that we go to now, that address is not searchable yet. It doesn't even exist. And so I'm going to get into a general area, and then I got to do some adventure hiking to find out precisely where the job site is. And then after I get to the job site, now I need to figure out, where am I supposed to park? Where do the trades park? Where do customers park? Where does the G's? And I'm thinking like big, massive projects because I've seen this all the time. So figuring that out. So the jobs here, and this happens all the time. I think Mike Good brought it up the last time, is the entry point to park on a project is never the same for the life cycle of the project. That entry point moves depending on the evolution of the logistics of the job site. So having that information accessible is the differentiator between just the generic Google stuff and getting into the general vicinity.
So I think that's really well spoken. And as Jen is saying, what is the goal? To consolidate all the resources available or to make it the most efficient tool? And I would say if you consolidated what Jesse just reamed off in terms of the specifics of the job location, it would make it an efficient tool. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like if I could have the confidence to click on this thing, and so now it goes from me a 3 or 4 day usage to constant usage of saying, oh, okay, let me, like, I know yesterday or earlier in the week, they said they were going to move the entry point, and I could click on this and it'll show me how to get to the new entry point. That's a game changer. Like for me as an individual, never mind the traffic and the phone call. Like I think of this, how many phone calls I got from the new people that were coming to my job site when I was the foreman or superintendent. I don't need that phone call, right? Like turn left by the big tree where the dog is on top of the doghouse. Like I don't need that phone call. And so if I had a tool or a resource for people to click on the button that would tell them precisely what to do, that took into account the current condition of the job site, that's a game that's a time saver for me in and of itself. And so, you know, in terms of like making it a tool, that's as simple as it sounds. It would be big for me as a person that's trying to go to the job site and wants to get there on time, or at least not be ultra late. And also for me as a project leader, being the source of information, from both of those perspectives, I would appreciate the tool if it could do that. Now, like if that's all it did, that would save me a lot of stress.
All right. So based on what Jesse is saying, being pointed, if everyone who's here, who's, you know, on kind of on the same page, do you agree or disagree that if we became more pointed about the app, it would be justifiable to today trying to figure out the most important thing that would have to be on this app? Can we get a agree or disagree? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, Heather makes a good point. Like people are trying. There's so many projects that are, I'll say, importing people legally, of course, from other states here in the U.S.
Yeah,
it's brand new. I mean, hell, that's my job, right? Like I travel around the country, and so to get to the project, it's some work because I'm not even familiar with the state, like the state that the job site lives in. So Google, so that's a good, like, could it be a Google Doc? Yes. But if I'm driving and trying to read a Google Doc on here, negative first, and then second, that is the most frustrating experience I can imagine in my life, is trying to get directions to a place from a Google Doc. I mean, maybe it has some other functionality in it. But
so here's the thing. So what I've always, when we started talking about this, I immediately, my head went to a visual of the map, of the location, right? So that you could then take, to your points, what already exists in a Google map, in the Yelp, and any other, you know, I'll say a general kind of a map. And then what you're trying to do is customize that map that reflects the job or the job location. So maps, again, saying use Google Maps or ways to get there, and parking information could be provided by the Google Doc. Not necessarily, because it's static. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what that means. Like, I know what Google Maps is, and I know what Waze is, which is one of those things I don't like to. But anyways, I know what that is, but I don't really understand what for parking information provided by a Google Doc, what that even looks like. Like, I don't have a frame of reference there, so it's hard for me to say yay or nay.
Okay, so what I want to do, so that we can sort of keep this moving along, let's go to our whiteboard, our my favorite tool in the world that I've put up here, that Mr. Hernandez will be navigating today. Let's just riff here and say, okay, let's look what this app could be like that would make it more specific. I mean, everyone isn't tech savvy for sure. So we want to put, that's why it's called a minimum viable product. We're trying to just distill what is essentially different in this application. Pretend you're looking at your phone, that makes it different. And to me, you would, first of all, you would want to find out where the job location is. So what's involved in doing that?
So we're just going to say GPS feature. Is that kind of what we're doing?
Yeah, GPS feature. Okay. Yep. And what are the elements that we would need to have in this feature that would then distill it closer to the elements of the job site, as opposed to the general nature of a Google map?
Yeah. So, oh yes. Yes, Jen.
Right?
Instead
yes.
of the words, yeah, because I don't need to be reading words. So visual representation of where they're headed. Representation of where they're headed.
Okay. And then so the next block for you can be, Jesse, think of a building site that you've been to, and what kind of visuals would you perhaps include for them to understand where they were going, as perhaps opposed to somewhere else? And you ripped a little bit about the dog and blah blah blah, which I kind of liked, because
right. No, so what I'm know on a job, when we get the new project, you have a site view that shows like the plot of land that the project's being on and in relation to the main roads, right? So that would be very helpful to say, okay, where am I? Yes, I'm on the right street, and the project's going to be on my left or on my right. Like, I need that site view in relation to the roads. And then, like, as I'm getting closer, okay, now I know I'm on the right road. I can see the project up ahead on my left. What I want to see is, where do I enter to park? Where is and so here's another example. Like these big giant data centers I go out to, they have 6 different entry points. One is for deliveries. One is for like the entity employees. One is for trades, right? Like there's multiple entries.
Are they always clearly marked?
Not always. Not always. A lot of times they are, but not always. It's just like, no, the third one.
Okay, so you know what I see then? Let's take the general entry points that you would have. You just called out 6 different ones, right? Put them on a sticky, because then I would think the user of the app would be able to recognize themselves as whatever they are, and they would hit that particular, whether they were delivery or they're a tradesperson or a specialty tradesperson as a particular entry. And then that would then start to lead them down a path that gets them even more specific onto the site. Does that make sense?
Yep. Well, I'm going to apply the rule that whoever's doing the typing is absolved from any spelling or grammar errors. How do you like that?
You're absolved. Not to worry. Not to worry.
How's that? Is that more gooder?
I like it. Entry point for the owner personnel. So what I would say is the entry point for deliveries, for the owners, for the personnel, and for the owner personnel. So are those all 4 distinct entry points on a site?
I would say so. Like the owner personnel, that's only relevant when you have an active, like a live, when you're adding on to the facility. When it's like greenfield, you're not going to have this person or this need. But just like data centers are freaking exploding and growing, and like they continue to build and build and build. So at some point, they're occupying the space. And so some occasions, you'll need the third one.
Okay. But again, we want to keep it minimal, and we want to keep it, for the moment, site. So anything unnecessary, I'd just make that a different color, like red, or pull it out or whatever. Yes, because we want to keep this as clean as possible. So to Jen's point, starting with a list of items, the parking, the entry, the delivery is identified on a physical map, and the map, to me, should, not look just like a usual street map. It should have, some branding on it. I think, the name of the project, the name of the builder, the address, the main, maybe even the main phone line, for any questions that could be directed by reception if needed.
Point of contact.
Yes.
Okay.
Who you're reporting to.
Okay. What do you?
Well, I mean, that, to me, that could be under a contacts tab.
Got it.
And it could be general, and then it could be, your report, or who you report to, or what might be the better grammatical way of expressing that.
Yep.
And again, let's try and stay visual, right? We want to stay visual. So when you do this, I mean, those tabs would be represented by a map, the map icon that we are most familiar with, right? That location map, or the pin, or whatever we'd use, that would do that. Contacts could be, the icon of 3 heads. So again, we're trying to make sure that this is mirroring the other usual apps that people on the site would be familiar with. So we'd be borrowing, and I'll be doing this offline, by the way, just a little bit of interjection here. As we do things live on this particular live stream, this is to drop the ideas, but it's, as you can imagine, a very heavy lift to try and physically build this in real time. So this is why it's important. But I'm saying, so if they're using WhatsApp as a general rule, then we want to make sure our icons are looking somewhat similar, right?
Sure.
And keeping it visual all the time. So right now we've determined that we're honing in on the site, or at least the periphery of the site. What other things? I think, well, the obvious one I'm going to call it is toilets, bathrooms, facilities. That's why I'm trying to riff. What other ideas do people have here? Let's see. I'm trying to keep up with comments here. Yeah, Heather talked about a GPS pin. Jen, you're right on target with your comment about visuals. And won't that be different depending on the trade, or would you just list the PM? I guess you're getting back to the point of contact. Yes, of course it will be. But I do think that if this, has gone to a bid and that particular trade has, it's on the schedule and they're trying to find the location, I would imagine that their foreman or whatever would also be there. So I personally would want to be as detailed as possible and maybe not just leave a general PM, because otherwise maybe we're creating the same problem Jesse called out earlier, which is that PM would be fielding a bunch of calls.
Yeah. So like for me, the person to call, like that, for me, that would be a third or fourth thing. Like that's way down the road, because I already have that, right? Like I have, my boss told me to go here and they probably gave me a phone number of who to call. So I'm thinking of this more like, give me the visual indicators of how to get precisely where I need to be to show up on time tomorrow. And so
I love it.
Right, without having to call anybody. Of course, having a phone number, last resort, but I also know that they're freaking busy and I'm not the only clown showing up out there, right? And so, I mean, maybe some more clarity. If I'm going to put a number, like for me, there's a lot of complexity there, because I'm not going to give if I'm a trade, rather, this is what I've done. When I sent people to new projects, I wasn't going to give them the phone number of the GC.
No.
That's ridiculous. Like, that's just not cool. Like, that's not nice to do that to the GC. I'm going to give them the number to our on-site foreman or our on-site superintendent, or maybe the PM. And I say this with 100% respect, but in most cases, the PM is not on site when people are arriving to the site. And especially from a trade perspective, they don't necessarily office out of the project. They have multiple projects. And so anyways, I would be giving the number to my foreman or my superintendent. And knowing that feels like it would add a lot of complexity in terms of usability, because you would have, let's just say, 20 different trades having to input that information.
So what if we got even more specific and said there was a question mark, and it would be, who are you reporting to? Because that might be the inverse of making it, a blanket statement about who they're supposed to connect with, as opposed to putting it on them. Who do you report to? Supervisor. And then, whatever supervisor contact could be in there, or site, superintendent.
Yeah, I do like that. I think that would help.
We're trying to make the responsibility go away, where it's just a general thing.
Yes. Now, this location of trailers, again, yeah, the right contact is necessary. So, but the idea around the location of trailers is, some projects are small. There's one trailer. It's the GC's trailer. Duh. Some projects have an acre of trailers. We call them trailer farms. That they've got 8 or 10 double wides stuck together. And then every trade has their own trailer, and it's this big, gigantic trailer farm. And when I'm new to a project, figuring out which one is which, yes, there's a sign on the door, but I have to walk to every door to see that. And
So, all right, so let's back it up a little bit here. What would be involved? Let's just set aside what we're doing right now. What would be involved in getting a visual of that trailer farm and that unbuilt job site before? To me, that's the ticket that makes the uniqueness.
Yes. And that ties back to these 2 points here. Because the job is dynamic, things move. They don't stay static forever, especially on entry logistics and whatever. So a site logistics plan, which every project has, or rather should have.
Okay, so I want another big tab, another big sticky that's a different color that yells that out like huge, because I know Mike bought this up last time. That to me is the guiding light in what we visualize.
Yes. Yes. So should we say like live and active site logistic plan, or because here's what I want to avoid, or I want to be clear about, is just having a site logistic plan. That's an easy lift, but it's not going to account for the evolution of the project. And so as things evolve, we will need to capture the current condition. So in my head, what I'm seeing is site logistic plan, first pass, very easy. And then monthly, thank you. Perfect language. Thank you, Heather. That's says it way faster than I would have said it. Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So a dynamic site logistic plan. But you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, okay, who is the technical hand in this? Because this is an app after all. This is technology after all. What I'm envisioning is more of a drone flyover that is capturing the dynamics of the ever-changing logistics of that job site.
Yes.
And that's why I think, it really does have legs. I'm not saying it's going to be expensive to build. I'm just saying it's, I can see that. Yep. I mean, any more than drones are used now for various reasons, safety to the build itself.
Yeah. I mean, totally. That's the thing, right? Is more and more projects use drones to capture what's happening, right? The dynamics of the project. So it's not like you have to have a drone to make this happen, but you could further leverage that asset to provide greater value. Who would drive the launch and installation of the app?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Yeah. Again, I feel like all the apps that are available right now, 100% are focused on the GC as the paying client. And so if we, like, for real, if I expected the GC to put any sweat into this thing, it dies, because they don't understand the problem. They don't experience
the problem.
Problem.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a fabulous question, Jen. And like, who would drive the launch, and like the maintaining the dynamic site logistics, et cetera. That's a big question.
It's a very big question. MVPs are usually used to test the validity of the idea. So to your very point, yes, that's why, we're trying to distill today, what's the bare minimum. Thank you for that, Matt, that we would need to test the validity of the idea. And as far as the user, I would say I would follow the same breadcrumbs that made your average skilled trade download WhatsApp. Like, how did that happen? How did that become so ubiquitous, from the smallest project to the largest project, where as an interrelation communication tool, they're using it.
Yeah.
I think it's like everything else, and I'm just going to put it out there, being an entrepreneur myself, nothing's easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nothing's easy.
Yeah. I mean, in my head, picking a trade, like a trade contractor that knows the pain, right? So I'm thinking of my buddy Ricardo with TD Industries, the production manager now. Both of us were foremen. We both know how freaking irritating it is to get a phone call of, hey, where do I park? Where do I go? Where's lunch? Where's the like that, knowing that he's experienced that pain, going to him with like, hey, we got this thing, whether it's a Google Doc or whatever. Can we test it out? Because this is the pain. Can you help us test this with your team on this project so that we can learn if it's worth the damn or not?
Well, and I would say, because Matt is, to my knowledge at this point, the developer, the legit developer on the live stream today, I would take your cues, Matt. A bare minimum is a Google Doc. I would also invite you to come around for the next Steph and Jess Build an App show and actually participate with us, and perhaps help to draw out this on a Google Doc in the same way you might do this kind of application, if you were working, for yourself or your client. I mean, I certainly have, some tools that I'm looking at externally for wireframes and the things that are legit used by people like developers like Matt. But at a minimum, we could take a Google Doc and just put it up there and start to draw out this. And I want to be cognizant of time today, but the whole idea of calling it the Mom app came out of Mr. Hernandez's mother telling him to make sure when he's traveling all over the country with the depth builder, what clothes he should pack. And
she still does it.
Jacket, right?
Yes.
So that's where the Mom app came from. And I just want to, give to Jen, who called out the visuals. So these are the particular kinds of things that we might actually have there, for example, right? We've got a bunch of questions coming up here, so just bear with me while I navigate all of that. But let's look at our comments again. So Heather, yes, Matt's saying test. Absolutely. Heather, if we really want to talk bare bones, I would think the GPA pin would be a value. I do too. It can be moved, gets to the heart of the issue, and everybody understands what the pin means, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a great comment. GPS, sorry. Yes, right. I was like, GPA. Okay. And Matt says fair. So I don't know if you're coming, buddy, but it's fair to me. Jen says most jobs have site logistics. That's right. Exactly. So yes. This is the kind of connection we'd make ahead of time. Now, who would do I would think the app producer. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, the app producer has to keep their eye on.
Yes. Yes.
So we're good, Heather. I think we know you meant GPS.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so getting back to the visuals of this thing, I'm going to show a few of them, and then I want to take a little bit of break here just to give a little bit of a shout out to the man himself. Actually, I'll hold the visuals. I'm gonna show you what Jess is all about and what his mission is. So we're taking a break. Here we go.
I'm Jesse, and I want to let you know what it is I do through the Depth Builder LLC. But before I get to that, I just want to give you a little bit of background of how I got to where I'm at today. Back in 1995, I began my career as a plumbing apprentice. And I completed my apprenticeship, got to journeyman level, foreman, superintendent. I spent about 17 years on the mechanical side of the business, on the trade side of the business. From there, I went on to take on a role as a change agent, supporting department heads, general managers, business units, and projects in the deployment of change. And then I had the opportunity to go help a national brand with the cultural transformation. And the lessons I learned along the way are what I use to help decision makers in the construction space humanize, optimize, and scale their business. So, if you're looking for a way to improve production, to smooth out some big major change or improvement initiatives, hit me up. I'm here to help. Peace. That's AI is awesome, Steph.
They did a great job. Wow. I didn't think it was that good.
That is funny. Thank you for that, Stephanie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, it's important. I mean, we want to give everybody their due and their credit. And I think, this certainly couldn't be built without somebody that has the depth of experience you have.
I like it.
So I'm going to put our little map up again, but I just want to get back to why we're calling it the Mom app, because to me, for now, it's a very catchy way. It's a very memorable way. It's a very memorable thing to call an app. And here are actually some of the I'll say visuals that we could be potentially using. So, you get on the app, it's like, hi, Mom here, and we can also have a part where there's, the facts about the site. Where is it? Is it a historical part of XYZ?
Oh, yeah.
Right? What's it known for? What kind of neighborhoods are around it or not? Maybe you're in an industrial park. I don't know. We're going to show Mom with the globe. This is to try and break down the boringness of it, if you will. We want to build in the ability to, where the hell am I going to get breakfast? Where is the nearest McDonald's if that's what you do? We want to make sure you're hydrated. So we want to be able to, perhaps have reminders where, did you have any water in the last 2 hours? Of course, the car is a no-brainer, right? Where are we parking? That's why we start off with WTF, where am I parking? And this is another, I've got more, but this is another one I threw in for, this could be whether you have to watch your gas or whether or not you're just clocking out. I'm done, empty, out. Yes. So yes. That's a little taste of the visuals that could accompany this particular app.
Steph, that empty full icon just reminded me of some of the projects. They're an hour away from home, period. And some of them are way out in the boonies. And I've been in this situation where I should have filled up last night, but I'm going to fill up on my way to the job site tomorrow or today, this morning. And I pass up, and then I all of a sudden find myself, I'm in a rural area. I need to find a damn gas station before I clunk out. And so anyways, that little visual that you had could be on that map, on the GPS map, like right here is the last damn gas station. So if you're in the red, stop here because there's no more gas stations near the job site.
Well, I like that enough that I think it deserves its own little sticky just to hold back, because this is a kind of riffing on this. And thanks for adding that, Jen. WhatsApp is used because it's international and the communication be carried across country lines. I would hope that, again, it depends the kind of ammunition that's put behind this particular app and how far it would go, but I would certainly hope it would carry internationally. And the other thing is that, I think a big factor would be you'd have to punch in where you were in the world, like literally, where are you in the world? And automatically the GPS would pick up where you are and the programming in this app would be done so that it would have certain parameters, maybe within a 50-mile radius or 100-mile, whatever it is. But I'm saying some sort of geofencing around the realities of you and your job site.
Love it. Truth.
See?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And hotels are a thing. I mean,
Yep.
you know, that's a great example to me of obvious landmarks that would be around, you know, and obviously we're not going to, you know, pick high end. We're going to pick, you know, medium, I'll say, or travel lodges or whatever the normal kind of a hotel that one would stay in this type of environment. But those are the things that, you know, this is why I don't know how long, and Jess doesn't know how long the series will last, but, you know, this is a lift, but I'm quite pleased by this today.
Yeah, this was good.
I'd like to hear from those that are still on the call and have stuck with us almost an hour into this. And, you know, how are people feeling about what they're seeing? And you can, you know, red light means I don't like it. Yellow is it's kind of liking it, or green is I'm in the game. So give us a red, a green, or a yellow in in the comments.
Come on, baby.
And LinkedIn's been sending me messages that it's come back online, but I'm too much of a coward to click link to it because I don't want everything going away in front of us.
Yes.
Okay, so Heather's giving us a green light. Thank you for that, Heather. Love it. And I love that you put the icon in there. Nice. Learning and missteps. That's a yellow. That's a yellow for Matt, but that's okay. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Right?
Love it. You know, we've had a lot of thank you folks out there in the Omniverse, because we got a bunch of comments, and I think it's what you were talking about a little while ago, Steph, like super helpful. The questions, the ideas that everybody shared kind of added to, or rather helped the thinking and the evolution of whatever this thing is. So y'all are awesome.
Well, and yes, and Heather, you're right. It is a heavy lift. I mean, you know, crazy over here to have thought we would do this, but I guess I've learned over the last 2.5, 3 years of how deprived site workers are of, in my opinion, things that they should just have. They should just have them. And that means proper toilet facilities and toilet paper and respect for one another using the bathroom facilities. And they should have immediate ways to be hydrated all the time, anytime. You know, to me, the basics. I did a little poll on one of the social media platforms. I was horrified what people are eating for lunch. It's no wonder people are in lousy moods. I mean, they're not even getting proper nutrition throughout the day, and it's all physical.
Yes.
So, you know, to me, you know, there's ways to weave those essentials in this.
100%. Yes. Yes. And now I want one of those greasy, juicy burritos from the taco truck.
See?
And a big red. If you don't know Big Red, you need to know. That is the stuff.
What's a big red? Weather. That is what my mom always tells me before I travel. That's
Same.
right. That's Jessie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now Big Red it's a soda. It's like a Coke, except it's red and has like 10 pounds of sugar for every ounce of water in it.
Ooh. But I want to ask you something, though. I mean, I know you're burning a lot of calories just by moving, but I would imagine certain foods make certain people sluggish, do they not?
Oh, 100%. So back when I used to do real work, lunch was the morning and lunch was tough because when I say morning, usually the taco truck will be there first thing in the morning or come in around 9 or 10 because people take breaks. And if I got what I wanted to eat, I was going to be sluggish afterwards. Lunch for sure. Like if I didn't pack my lunch and I only ate what was available through the taco truck or through the fast food restaurants that were close by, I mean, I gorged. Like I ate, and after lunch was like, what? And so as an installer, I knew my morning is when I would produce the most because I had energy. I wasn't sluggish. I wasn't weighted down with everything I ate. After lunch, I knew was going to be a different pace because of what I ate. So I would put out more effort in the morning and get the bigger things done in the morning. And the afternoon was just, okay, polish, getting ready for tomorrow. It's not to say that everybody operates that way. But,
okay, but I have a question for you about lean. I know we've got big lean advocates on the call today. So I like that what you're even talking about from I wouldn't think it's always possible though, to get all the big things out of the way. Is it?
It's possible. I mean, when you get into the micro level of the work that needs to happen, I could organize my day every day so that the morning were the bigger things. Man, when I say bigger, I mean cognitive load and physical load. So that the afternoon, so for example, if I'm doing underground plumbing, right, which means I'm exposed to the sun all damn day long.
Damn right, yeah.
The digging and the bedding of the ditch is going to happen in the morning because it's not 1,000,000 degrees. The assembly of the piping and laying it out and leveling it out and all that stuff is going to happen in the afternoon. Like, let's say 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. From 2 p.m. to 3:30, I want to be testing it or inspecting it or gathering my materials, double checking what I installed so that tomorrow I can repeat the same cycle. Because as the day goes, it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And so if I'm swinging a shovel at 3 p.m., that sucks. I mean, I could do it, but if I did 90% of it in the morning, I just feel better. So it can be done, but
I love it. But that's why you're golden, man, because you understand the nuance, because you've been there and you've done it, but you also now know how to turn this into analyzing these processes.
Yes.
And that's so logical. I mean, and probably, again, I'm terrible, but I'm glad that we've ruled out the general contractor buying into this. I don't want the general contractor buying it. I've seen enough of the divide between technology and what the general contractor feels and what should be pushed down and what should be applied. That's the whole impetus for this particular Steph and Jess Build an App show, was to bring it up from the field. And I wouldn't even have thought. I mean, it's so logical when you say it.
Yeah.
And also, it's getting hotter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So, as a matter of, just before we close up, well, you'll stay on after, but I want to add that temperature is really, really important to me, because temperature relates to how people feel on the job, but it relates to when you're hydrating, it relates to when you're eating, it relates to when you're doing the job, or how early you're getting to the job, or how late you're staying at the job. It all ties in, and temperature is going to play a bigger and bigger role.
100%. Awesome.
Any other comments before we end today's session out there in the omniverse, as Jesse would refer to it?
Yeah, I've had fun. I know that. And all the comments and contributions have been extremely helpful.
Very, very helpful. I mean, we can't do it without people's experience. And also, I want to give a shout out to the sort of the flip side. You can get all enthusiastic about it, but we need people dare I call you out, Matt, we need people like Matt to, you know, sort of look at the other side of it and be somewhat pessimistic about what's going on, or how could you do it? I mean, I will come prepared with a Google Doc. Jesse, does Mural has a drawing thing in it, doesn't it? Are you
It
capable
does.
to draw with it, or you prefer
I
not
can
to?
practice. No, I can practice. I
Could you?
don't use it because it's just another thing to learn, but I can practice for it. It's easy.
Because that's what I think we'll want to do with those stickies, is start to turn them into drawings so we can actually visualize what's going on.
Yes. Love it.
And Matt says even the GPS pin is a good first step. Absolutely. But that's why you're invaluable on the call, Matt, because, you know, you're the guy who actually does code. And I know there's a lot of no code, and there's certain platforms out there that are trying to bypass, you know, the kind of work you do every day. But I'm sure what little I know about coding is that you can't make things as good if you're not coding versus just sliding over, I'll say, pre-manufactured features and functions, which are capable. They're capable in some applications. Anyway, we'll take that offline. I want to thank everybody, and I mean everybody, for stepping in and stepping up and having something to say and making a contribution. And I hope everybody will keep coming along with the party. For those of you that had trouble signing on, thank you, LinkedIn. Thank you, StreamYard. You know, I'm going to make sure that what editing I do, they go out onto LinkedIn so that people don't miss the gems that were uncovered today. And that, of course, you can get access to the YouTube full live stream, which I think is important for continuity.
100%. Yes.
And Jesse, what are your last remarks?
What I love about this, and this isn't really going to surprise anybody, is I didn't know what to expect. And so being able to, like, it felt like a little bit like work, but in a good way, in terms of thinking through what's important and what's not, and what does it matter. And like that was, I didn't know, I was not expecting that. And I love that I didn't know what to expect. And so this is actually a thing that's growing and developing live as we're doing it, which I think is a hell of a lot of fun. And it doesn't happen without you, Stephanie, and it doesn't happen without the people that showed up and contributed. So it was an experience for me, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, and for sure, I mean, you know, most of the party line here for a lot of people, including this guy, you know, it's you know, and Jen's hashtag better together. I mean, nothing happens in this world singularly. It just doesn't. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, everybody's got their strengths and their, you know, I don't, whether you want to call them weaknesses or just things that they just don't do, you know, nothing wrong with that. It's but everybody's got a place at the party. They just do. So thanks everybody for jumping on, and we'll see you at the next one.
Next time, y'all be cool.
Take care.